Healthy Living, Happy Midlife. I'm Denise Stegall, the Menopause Mentor, and today we are diving into something that doesn't get enough attention when we talk about menopause. That is mindset. Hormones matter, obviously. Yes, sleep disruption, hot flashes, night sweats, ugh, right? Problem. And weight gain, these are real. These are real changes that are happening in our body. But there's a part that is generally overlooked. It's the way that you think about menopause and aging in general that can actually shape how severe your experience feels. Let that sink in for a second. So, when you picture getting older, image pops into your mind? Is it a frail woman who's bent over with a cane, or is it an older woman who's in good shape, who, gray hair, whatever, but she's physically fit and maybe she's walking, or maybe she's doing aerobics or water aerobics, maybe she's hiking. Which woman would you like to be when you're in your 70s and 80s? I know which one I want to be. And my goal here is to help you be that woman who's walking and hiking and doing all the aerobics. So, but for many of us, the images that we have of what old looks like, or what we think old age is, these ideas and images were formed way before midlife. Okay, way before you're even a teenager. In fact, that there is research that shows that our perceptions of aging are often set by the time we're 6 years old. Yeah, 6 years old? Really? You're just a little kid. What do you know? I thought about this though, because initially I thought, really? 6 years old? I don't know about that. But when I thought about it, a couple of people came to mind. My grandmother, who was probably only in her 60s at the time, um, she seemed so old, right? She was kind of ho hum. She was a heavy set woman, absolutely no muscle tone. And she dressed I mean, in my opinion, even back then, kind of frumpy. Today we would call them, these are our comfy clothes, which since COVID we seem to live in nowadays. Um, that is another topic for another day. But I also remember family friends of ours who were actually closer to grandparents than just family friends. They were probably in their mid 50s, mid to later 50s. And I remember, gray hair, wrinkles. I mean, that's, as we get older, we get wrinkles. And I think women in that generation probably didn't take care of their skin as much as they could have. SPF wasn't really great. Um, like this was back in the time of, you went to the beach or you went outside and you sunbathe and you put oil on, right? So obviously, um, that was affecting their skin. So, like I said, these are people who were in their, mid 50s, maybe later 50s, but I remember them saying things like, "Oh, I'm so tired. Denise, I'm not as young as you." As a child, that kind of became my definition of old. I didn't realize that until I started to think about this topic. Because these were people who we saw all the time. We went to the beach with them. Uncle Ken used to take us, in the ocean, and we would jump waves, he and my dad and my sister, and we would have a blast. But, after a while, he'd be like, okay, I'm done. Um, I need to catch my breath. I need to rest. And then he'd go back up to sit, under the umbrella, and he would completely crash. He would just snooze for an hour. So again, this was my perception. Those early impressions stay with us, whether we realize it or not. Case in point, right? They influence how we expect midlife and aging to feel. Hmm, interesting thought. I know it seems almost unbelievable that your mindset could actually have that much power over your body. but the science actually says it's true. I don't just say these things, they don't just come to my head. I actually do the studies or read the studies because this is important. What's happening to us is, it's a biological, it's natural. These are things that are happening. And we do have amazing scientists who are studying um, aging and menopause. Thank goodness they're doing that now. 15, 20 years ago, they certainly weren't. But here's what some of the science says. So there's the Ohio Longitudinal Study of Aging and Retirement. So the researchers there found that people with a positive self hold on, let me say that again. People with positive self perceptions, easy for me to say, of aging actually lived an average of 7.5 years longer, big deal, than those who had negative views, even after taking into account their health and their lifestyle. Interesting, yes? In 2018, there was a study at Yale that found that positive beliefs about aging actually reduced the risk of dementia. Get this, by nearly 50%. That's a big deal. That's half, right? Even people that were carrying the APOE4 gene, which we know is associated, closely associated with Alzheimer's, or sorry, Alzheimer's and dementia, right? This is the strongest genetic risk factor, okay? Even people that had that gene were 50%, were dropping their risk 50%. Holy moly. This is something we really need to accept and really envelop into our life and the way we look and perceive and think about aging, menopause, and life in general. So the last study I'll share here with that it really basically kind of uh, helps this past makes sense to go after this past study that I just talked about, the Alzheimer's. So there was a long-term study in the United Kingdom that showed that older adults with a more positive outlook had better memory function for over 16 years. Now, I have an aunt who she's 89. I think mom's 83. Maybe she's 87. Um, she's the oldest of five. And to be quite honest, she's doing better than all of them. She is, happy doing her gardening, and she has, her friends, and she does things. When I talk to her, she's not ho hum, she's not complaining. She just is living her life. No, it's a very simple life, but she's happy and she has positive thought. She has positive thoughts about it. Sure, there have been negative things that have happened, right? Her husband passed away just over a year ago. So yeah, that's hard. That's sad. But that's sadness. That's not negative mindset, right? Things happen in life. And we need to make sure that those things aren't completely affecting our outlook and the way we perceive life, health, and obviously menopause. So, these things are, this is more than like, oh, feel good stuff, right? This is really biology responding to a belief, right? And that's important. It's your biology, your body can actually respond and, think of positive mindset, but also uh, when we think of, I'll get back to that. So, what does this mean for women navigating menopause? Now, let me tell you, I know I've been doing this for 17 years, experiencing menopause from perimenopause starting at 37. Hey, the numbers were flipped. 37 to where I am today, 3 years post-menopause. Right, that's been 17 years. I've experienced it all. It's not been a cakewalk. There have been some days that it was tough, but the hot flashes, the mood swings, the brain fog, yeah, I know they're real. But whether you believe menopause is awful or manageable, you're right. Right? If you think it's horrible, it's horrible. If you think it's manageable, then it is. Right? Obviously, your mindset doesn't ease your symptoms, but it does change how you experience them, right? Um, if you have a positive mindset on this and you're experiencing symptoms, you think, "Oh, okay, instead of looking at this negative, like through a negative lens, right? Negative lens would be clouded with negativity, complaining, resentment, hopelessness, right? Everything looks dark. Oh, darn, this is horrible. When is this going to end, right? If the lens on the other hand, is clear, curious, empowered, even hopeful, then the challenges feel lighter, more manageable, and less overwhelming. Why? Because you're actually in a mindset where you are looking for answers. Hopefully, that's why you come here, is to find answers to questions about menopause, perimenopause, postmenopause, that nobody else seems to be answering in a easy to watch, easy to read format. Right? You don't need to read science books. You don't need to read the scientific papers, right? I'm here to help you do that. And I do that because when I started struggling, there wasn't a menopause mentor to guide me and empower me. Um, so I think that's important, to be able to look at what you're experiencing and say, okay, getting hot flashes. It's keeping me up at night. How do I manage this? What are the supplements that I need? Um, what are the diet changes that I need? What lifestyle changes do I need? Right. So the other day, I went to a women's networking event. There were four women kind of standing around coffee clutching, and they were complaining about their body and I'm always tired and how menopause was actually ruining their lives. Now, I was kind of just stepping back and listening to what they were talking about. And trust me, I get it. The change, as sometimes it is called, is not easy. But sitting around reinforcing any kind of negativity doesn't help. In fact, research shows that it actually makes things worse. Right? Why? It's going to increase your stress, increase your cortisol, right? Stress equals cortisol. Increases inflammation. Inflammation is already increasing in our midlife bodies because our estrogen and progesterone are dropping, and estrogen is a protection, gives us protection from inflammation. So we're already increasing our inflammation, and now we're adding more to it by this additional stress. And it's actually deepening the symptoms that we want to escape from, that we want to manage. So with that, I guess the conversation there is your circle of friends matters, right? If you want to cultivate a positive outlook, it's not going to happen if you're sitting around, coffee clutching with a group of people who are just feeding the negativity, right? There's nothing positive there. There was nothing good coming out of that conversation, right? They're all just commiserating. And the sad thing was, um, you could see it on their face. They were sad and they were unhappy and they were miserable. Well, I get it. I've been there. I still, even 3 years post, not quite, it was just 3 years postmenopausal. Yeah, sometimes I still get hot flashes. Sometimes, my moods are a little funky, not to the point where they're not manageable, but I get it. But when those days come, kind of look at it I basically look at it in the mirror, and kind of argue with it. It's like, nope, I'm not going to feel this way today. I'm not going to let, these hot flashes, ruin my day. Yeah, I might not have slept great last night, right? But I'm going to do something for me today that makes me feel good, right? Okay, so imagine, I love giving these scenarios. Imagine menopause, like climbing up a hill. I know sometimes it feels that way, right? If you're surrounding yourself with people who say, "Oh, this this hill is too steep. I just can't do it," suddenly that climb feels pretty impossible to reach, right? However, if you're surrounded by women saying, all right, steep hill, let's take it one step at a time. We got this. the climb becomes more doable and actually much more fun. Okay, not that menopause is really fun, but we're talking about the climb here, right? So, this time of our lives, should be freeing, right? We don't have to worry about getting pregnant. Kids are basically either in high school, college, out of the house, more time. We're at the top of our game in our careers, maybe, right? This is a great time to be able to reconnect with our partners, our spouses, right? This is a great time to take me time, right? So I guess the question here is, which group would you like to be with? The group that's saying, can't do this, or the one that's saying, come on, we got this. We got this, girl. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So how do we shift mindset in midlife dealing with menopause? Right? Million books out there, million apps. These are things that they don't have to cost you any money. You can just do at home, right? Number one, notice your inner voice. What are you saying to yourself? I'm too old, or this is terrible. I hate this. Pause and ask yourself, is this thought helping me or is it hurting me? Right? I'm going to say that those thoughts are hurting you. Reframe the story then, right? Instead of, oh, I'm falling apart, my body. Your body is basically at this stage asking you to pay attention. So instead of the negative, flip it to, um, yes, my body is saying something. What is it saying? How do I need to uh, react? What are the things that I need to do? Because my body's talking to me here. Your body's always talking to you, right? Whether if it's a headache or mood swings or cramps or sore muscles, your body is talking to you. Listen to your body, right? So listen to the story that you're saying to yourself, but then realize that your body is talking to you at this stage. Always has, but we're talking about here in midlife. Reframe your story. You're not falling apart. You're not getting old. All of that nonsense that we say to ourselves, right? Number three, and I mentioned this a few minutes ago, choose your circle wisely, right? Spend time with women who talk about solutions, possibilities, support, not just complaining. That's no fun. It doesn't matter what you're complaining about. I don't want to be around complainers. I want to be around people who have energy, people who want to do things, who want to change things, who want to shake things up a bit. That's a lot more fun, right? And if I'm going to live an extra 7.5 years because I have a positive outlook, I got a lot to do in those 7.5 years, right? How about you? What are you going to do in those 7.5 years? And then this last one, so I don't like to give you too many. So here's four. Usually it's three. Today I'm giving you four. Feed your brain positivity. Okay. This could be journaling, a gratitude practice, practicing meditation, even just looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, you're good. I'm resilient. I'm strong. You look pretty good today. Actually having a pretty good hair day. You can't always control the changes that are happening in our bodies. Actually, I don't think we ever have real control. You can control how you interpret them, right? And that interpretation shapes your biology. Okay. Why am I talking about this today? Because menopause isn't just about surviving hot flashes and mood swings, right? It's about setting the stage for these next decades in life. So if you are, menopause usually someplace between 50, 55, I'm going to say you're 55, right? And well, I'll use me as an example. I'm 54. My lifespan, when I go online and I look at, all of the calculators that they have there, they have me as at least living another 30 years. So at 54, that's 84. My mom's almost already 84 and she's kicking butt. And so I want to be like my mom in that respect, right? Um, what do you want to do when you're 60, 70, and 80? Because you can't decide when you're 70 that you want to make all these huge changes. You need to decide now, right? The positive mindset, the lifestyle changes, the nutrition changes that I talk about regularly, the support, whether it's HRT, supplementation, like, or HRT or supplementation, or a completely different lifestyle, right? These are things that we need to start today in our 50s. Really, if you're still early in perimenopause, these are things that we need to be thinking now. So 50s and 60s, 70s, and into our 80s, we feel good. We have energy. We have a positive mindset. We're excited about the things to come. Sure, we're all getting older. We can't stop that, right? So, how do we want to live? How do we want to feel today? How do we want to feel tomorrow, next year, next decade, and into our 80s? Right? So, adopting a positive outlook doesn't necessarily, or doesn't just improve how you experience menopause. It may truly extend your life expectancy, protect your brain against Alzheimer's and dementia, and improve your quality of life. If your quality of life right now is kind of in the toilet, let's fix that. Because if we don't fix it now, it's going to still be in the toilet in your 60s and 70s and 80s and beyond, because we know that there are women who are living into their 90s and even into their hundreds. Um, we need to think about that person today and how are we going to treat ourselves that we so we can get to that stage in life. Um, Truly, when I hear that a positive outlook can lower your dementia risk by almost half just by shifting your outlook. Seriously, to me, that's reason enough to adopt a positive mindset about aging. Seriously, if that doesn't, give you a reason, I don't know what will. So here's my challenge for you today. Reflect on the stories that you've been carrying around aging and around menopause. Where did they come from? Your mother, grandmother, social media, your friends? And most important, do they serve you? If they do not, it's time to make some changes in the way you're thinking about aging and menopause, right? If they don't serve you truly, it's time to rewrite them, right? I mean, literally, you can write down, I used to feel like this, but now I feel like this about menopause. Again, that's the journaling that I mentioned earlier. Because you deserve to experience menopause uh, not as the end of something, but a powerful beginning to a new chapter in your life, right? So if you're ready to start shifting your mindset, I would love to help. Head to my website, denisestegall.com, take the menopause quiz. It's a simple way to understand where you are today and possibly shed some light on what steps you can take to create a more positive, empowering experience in midlife. Mindset isn't everything, but it changes everything. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Healthy Living, Happy Midlife. Until next time, keep nourishing your body, your mind, and your spirit. Eat real food, make good decisions, and be accountable to the most important person in the world, you. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Healthy Living, Happy Midlife. My hope is that today's conversation left you inspired, encouraged, and ready to take the next step toward creating a vibrant, fulfilling life that you deserve. Remember, you don't have to settle for fatigue, brain fog, or frustration. Midlife is not the end of your story. It's the doorway to your next best chapter. And I'm here to help you walk through it with energy, with confidence, and with joy. So if you're ready to take this journey further, I invite you to schedule a free strategy call with me. The link is in the show notes. And together we'll design a plan that works for you at this time in your life, for your body. So be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast platform.
catch the video version on YouTube so you never miss another episode. Share it with a friend who needs to hear that midlife can truly be the most powerful season of her life. Until next time, I'm Denise Stegall, reminding you that healthy living, happy midlife is not just possible, it's yours for the